Thailand is a beautiful country located in Southeast Asia. Known for its stunning beaches, delicious food, and rich culture, it is a popular destination for tourists from all over the world. One of the most iconic landmarks in Thailand is the Wat Phra Kaew Temple, located in the capital city of Bangkok. It houses the famous Emerald Buddha, a highly revered religious icon in Thai culture. Visitors can also explore the Grand Palace, a complex of buildings that served as the official residence of the kings of Siam. Another popular destination is the city of Chiang Mai, known for its ancient temples, night markets, and elephant sanctuaries. Visitors can experience traditional Thai culture by participating in a cooking class, trying on traditional clothing, or taking part in a traditional Thai massage. Thailand is also famous for its stunning beaches, such as Phuket, Koh Samui, and Krabi. Visitors can enjoy activities such as snorkeling, diving, or simply relaxing on the beach. In addition to its natural beauty and cultural heritage, Thailand is also known for its delicious cuisine. Popular dishes include pad thai, green curry, and tom yum soup. Overall, Thailand is a must-visit destination for those looking for a unique and unforgettable travel experience. From its vibrant cities to its stunning beaches and rich culture, there is something for everyone to enjoy in this amazing country. Thailand is the most preferred tourist place of many people. You will find their beautiful beaches, seas, glitzy shopping malls, colorful markets, and has rich culture. Thailand Holidays package is an enticing mixture of establishing destinations like Hua Hin and Phuket. Thailand appeals to many different travelers, whether they are hippie chic or craving barefoot luxury. Thailand provides you plenty of selections for every budget and taste. Pampering is an art form of this beautiful country, and throughout the country spas provide authentic treatments, if it is in a 5-star resort or a beachside hut. Package Thailand Holidays provides you best sightseeing, variegated shopping, colorful history, gourmet. Thailand is full of fun and colors, are an outstanding destination to visit. Thailand holiday packages never fails for attracting and amazing citizens of different age groups. Nonetheless, there are a number of stunning towns, shoreline and isles as well as hospitality that people extend is beyond their imagination, and it makes this city a famous place with travelers. Few of the well-known Thailand destinations during Package Thailand Holidays are Bangkok, Koh Samui, Chiang Mai, Hua Hin and Phuket. Bangkok is on the edge of river named Chao Phraya, which is the capital city of Thailand. It is the largest city in the entire country, with the almost 7 million population. A worldwide well-known seashore resort named Pattaya is positioned almost 170 kilometers south of Bangkok. Pattaya is premier beach resort of Thailand and annually fascinates happiness-seeking people from all across the world. Comfortable tropical ambience of Pattaya is the ideal for an unforgettable holiday experience for couples, singles and families too. Pattaya Beach really touches the shoreline in a 4-kilometer-long arc. Southern Beach is famous for its best nighttime activities. Streets are alive to crowd and bustle of entertainment halls, restaurants, as well as crowded bars. Northern Beach is sedate enough and best for Pattaya. Thailand is a wonderful kingdom, featuring Buddhist temples, exotic wildlife, and spectacular islands. Along with a fascinating history and a unique culture that includes delectable Thai seafood delicacies. Many visitors regard Thai food as some of the best in the world. Apart from the delicious spicy food, a relaxing Thai massage is the most wanted in the world. The only word I can say is wow. Thailand was wonderful. I was stunned by the richness in their culture, said an Italian tourist. Thailand features a modern capital, Bangkok, a pastoral countryside, and friendly people. Next to Myanmar, Thailand is the second largest country on the Southeast Asian mainland. Its territory of 198,115 square miles, over 513,117 square kilometer, shelters a population of over 62 million. Geography and history have conspired to make the country a unique nation. There has been a major Thai state in the present territory of Thailand for the last 600 years, and the country is one of the very few in Asia to have escaped European colonialism. Lying off the major historic sea lanes, it was spared the influences that shaped the maritime world to the south and east, notably the Muslim religion and the European rule. Thailand has thus acted as a buffer between the conflicting interests of France and England for control of the region, and partly because of this competition succeeded in preserving its independence during the European colonial partition of Southeast Asia. The monarchy became and remains a potent symbol of the country's historical continuity and national identity. For over a century, the country has practiced a neutral stance in world affairs, and its post-1950 dependence on the West is a sharp break with tradition. The non-colonial development of the economy is illustrated by the fact that emphasis was placed almost entirely on non-estate agriculture, except for the rubber plantations in the southern peninsula. The great rubber, tea, coffee, coconut, palm, and other plantation estates of Indonesia, the Philippines and Indonesia are conspicuously absent in the nation, as has been the European and American capital. It is only in the exploitation in tin extraction in its peninsula region and in the growing manufacturing sector that the American and European involvement has been significant. Thailand, for a long time, remained neglected by the West, partly because the colonial powers were engaged elsewhere, and due in part to Thailand's location off the historic routes of maritime trade. Thailand's physical configuration is simple: a south-facing river basin enclosed on the west, north and the southeast by mountains, and a long, slender peninsular finger in the south. The northern and western mountains are the southward continuation of the complex mountain system of the Himalayas from eastern Tibet curving to the south that, in part, form the boundary between southern Myanmar and Thailand. These mountains are a series of north-south ranges, rise to nearly 8,000 feet, 2,440 meters, and trend southward into Malaysia. To the north are the hills and dissected plateau region of Myanmar that contains caves from which remains of prehistoric humans have been excavated. The Korat Plateau in the northeast covers a third of the country that gently tilts toward the east and lies in the drainage of the Mekong. The plateau is enclosed on the west and south by low, linear hills. Surface elevations on the Korat range from 650 feet, 198 meters, in the northwest to 300 feet in the southeast. Lying between the northern and western mountain ranges and the Korat Plateau is a sizable Chao Phraya River basin, which is the cultural and economic heartland of the country, known also as the Central Lowlands. This region consists of rolling plains in the north and a low-lying floodplain and delta of the Chao Phraya formed by the large deposits of alluvium brought by the tributaries of the rivers. The alluvial deposits of the river valleys are the most fertile in Thailand, as these are replenished year after year with river sediments swollen with annual monsoon rains. The topography of the peninsular arm is rolling to mountainous, with little flat land. Higher mountains rise to about 5,000 feet, 1,524 meters, on the west. Off the rugged and indented coast lie several small islands, including the Phuket Island, which is rich in tin. The climate of Thailand may be described as tropical monsoonal. The major influences are the country's location in the tropics, monsoon zone, and the topographic features affect the distribution of rainfall. In early May, the southwest monsoons flow from the Indian Ocean and bring large amounts of rainfall, which reaches a maximum in September. The wind system is reversed between November and February, when a northeast monsoon brings cool, dry air. Occasionally, typhoons may come across the China Sea and bring some rain, but fades out across Thailand. The amount of rainfall varies from 40 inches to 120, 1,016 to 3,048 millimeters, in the various parts of the country. In the southern peninsula region, a dry season seldom occurs and receives as much as 160 inches of precipitation annually, whereas Bangkok gets 55 inches, 1,397 millimeters, and Korat, sheltered by hills on all sides, even less than 30 inches, 762 minutes. And almost the whole of the peninsula region receives over 80 inches distributed throughout the year. Temperatures are, in general, moderate to high, averaging between 77 degrees and 84 degrees Fahrenheit, 25 degrees and 29 degrees Celsius. The season of highest temperatures is in late March, April and early May. In central, peninsular and southeastern Thailand, maximum temperatures seldom reach 100 degrees Fahrenheit 37.7 degrees Celsius, while minimum temperatures are lower than 65 degrees Fahrenheit 18.3 degrees Celsius. In northern Thailand, temperature range tends to be much larger. Soils of the river valleys are fertile, and the most fertile land is in the floodplains of the lower Chao Phraya Basin, because it receives large amounts of the rich, alluvial deposits of soil every year. Relatively flat areas elsewhere and parts of the coast also have fertile soils. Elsewhere, soils tend to be poor, highly leached laterites of the humid tropics. Among Southeast Asian countries, Thailand is the most identity-conscious nation. Relatively homogeneous, the country does not possess the multiplicity of languages found in Indonesia and the Philippines, nor contains a complex ethnic mix as in Malaysia. 85% of the population speaks Thai, which is a member of a large cluster of languages spoken in all bordering countries, as well as southern China and northern Vietnam. Like the people of Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos, the Thais are Buddhists of the Theravada school. In 1991, 95% of the population was listed as adhering to Buddhism. The minorities include Muslims, who account for 4% of the population, Hindus, Sikhs, and a few Christians, which are concentrated chiefly around Bangkok. The national government plays down regional loyalties, and the Thai language is taught in schools throughout the country. Non-Thais number nearly 12 million, or 20% of the population. The largest ethnic minority, comprising over 8 million, or 12% of the total population, are Chinese, who have been assimilated to a far greater degree than in either Malaysia or Indonesia. There are no barriers to intermarriage, and most have embraced Thailand's Buddhism. The next largest minority is that of Malays, who profess the Muslim faith, and are largely concentrated in the southern peninsular neck of the country close to the Malaysian border. In the northern and northwestern part of the country along the Myanmar border are several hill people, the tribal groups, chief of which are Karens, and Shans, numbering over 1 million each. Most are shifting cultivators. Also included among Thailand's minorities are Vietnamese, who moved and settled in the northeastern part of the country in the 1940s and 1950s to escape Indochina War with the French, and Khmer's Cambodians, who fled their homeland as refugees after the 1979 Vietnamese invasion of Cambodia. Such border areas inhabited by the minority groups in the north, northwest, northeast and the southern peninsula are imperfectly integrated into the Thai state, and are economically backward as well. The Thais dominate the lowlands, and there are layers of non-Thai people in the mountainous borderlands. Traditionally, agriculture has been the dominant sector of Thailand's economy. Although through government encouragement to small industry, its contributions to economic growth have declined consistently since 1950. The proportion of the agricultural labor force has declined from 88% in the 1950s to less than 50%. Agriculture's contribution to the national economy relative to manufacturing has also declined from more than 50% in the 1950s to less than 11% in the 1999. Despite this shift to manufacturing, agricultural production has continued to expand, and Thai farmers continue to produce enough rice for the country's needs as well as a surplus for export. Today, Thailand is the world's fifth largest producer of rice and its largest exporter, exporting 1/3 to 1/4 of rice exports of the world. Agriculture is overwhelmingly associated with rice cultivation, and close to 90% of the country's cultivable area is given to it, nearly one-half of which lies in the Chao Phraya Basin, where the flood waters of the river provide irrigation and silt-laden fertile soils to the fields. During the 1960s, movement toward crop diversification became popular, and the farmers began growing such other export crops as maize, sugarcane, pineapples, tobacco, coconuts, and kenaf, a substitute for jute, on a larger scale than before. These crops have since been slowly acquiring greater prominence. In addition, large quantities of vegetables and fruits are also grown. Cattle breeding are important in the Central Plains, and pigs and poultry are widely raised. Fishing is also of considerable importance, and constitutes a growing export commodity. Rubber production, introduced into the country during the 19th century, is important in the southern, peninsular section. Thailand ranks third in the world in natural rubber production. It produces nearly 1/6 of the world's production of hardwoods, particularly teak. Its major forest products are now exported in small quantities, following a government ban on logging imposed in 1989. Mining constitutes a small segment of nation's economy, with only 0.2% of labor force engaged in it, and contributing less than 2% to the domestic gross product. Tin, mined mostly in the peninsula, has long been a valuable mineral resource, and the country has become one of the world's largest tin producers, producing on the average about 1/10 of the world's total output. Coal, zinc, gypsum, tungsten, and limestone are some other minerals produced. The manufacturing sector has dramatically grown during the last 4 decades, representing primarily the large investments made by private firms. The larger ones have been financed by foreign and Thai capital. Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore have been the major sources of investment for industry that is particularly oriented to producing consumer goods such as clothing, canned goods, and electrical products. Japanese capital is increasingly invested in the manufacture of textiles and machinery. Physically and economically, Thailand is composed of several distinctive natural units, although the key area is the central lowland, the plain of the Chao Phraya, which accounts for about 1/5 of the country's territory and 2/5 of its population. This is the area of most compact Thai settlement and most important agriculture. Population densities are highest of any region. Over 600 persons per square mile, 230 persons per square kilometre. It was formerly forested, but now consists of unbroken paddy, rice, fields. Soils are extremely fertile, composed of rich alluvium brought by the river. Despite receiving a relatively low total rainfall of a little over 50 inches, 1,250 millimeters, a year, it is the country's agricultural heartland and the rice basket. Thailand has recorded some of Southeast Asia's most impressive economic gains, averaging between 6 and 7% a year during the last 3 decades. The fastest expansion has been seen in the manufacturing, service and trading sectors. Domestic markets have expanded and production of such commodities as cement, soft drinks and textiles has continued to grow. American military expenditure during the 1960s and 1970s and Japanese investments further bolstered the economy. Between 1950 and 1970, a rapidly growing population, particularly in the central lowlands and around Bangkok, had caused great concern, and the administration, which had previously supported population growth, reversed its policies. Since 1970s, the family planning programs of the government helped to substantially reduce the population growth rates, which now stand at 0.9% a year, at nearly 1/3 of those prevailing during the 1960s and 1970s. The country is now a model. Sri Lanka is an island nation located in the Indian Ocean, just off the southeastern coast of India. Despite its modest size, slightly larger than the state of West Virginia, Sri Lanka has a population of about 20 million people, almost equal to the population of Texas. The island is rich in natural resources, and has a diverse economy based on agriculture, mining, fishing, manufacturing, and tourism. On becoming an independent nation in 1948, Sri Lanka, formerly called Ceylon, seemed to be headed for a future as a stable and prosperous democracy. Since the 1970s, however, the country has been torn by violent struggles between the two main ethnic groups, Sinhalese and Tamils, that make up its population. Sri Lanka suffered severe damage and loss of life from the tsunami of 2004. What effect that disaster will have on the country's political future remains to be seen. Shaped like a teardrop, the island of Sri Lanka measures about 255 miles, 415 kilometers, from north to south, and about 135 miles, 220 kilometers, from east to west, with a total land area of about 25,300 square miles, 65,600 square kilometers. It has more than 830 miles, 1,340 kilometers, of coastline. The island is ringed by a broad coastal plain, rising to an inland terrain of gently rolling hills. A range of mountains dominates the south-central interior, with the highest peak, Mount Piduruthalagala, reaching more than 8,200 feet, 2,524 meters, in height. Located between 5 and 10 degrees latitude north of the equator, Sri Lanka has a tropical climate dominated by two monsoon seasons. The summer monsoon lasts from mid-May to October, when winds from the southwest bring rain from the Indian Ocean to the southern and western parts of the island. During the winter monsoon, from December through March, winds from the northeast bring rain from the Bay of Bengal to northern and eastern regions. Monsoon rains are constant and heavy, with up to 100 inches of rain per month falling during the summer monsoon in the southwest. October-November and mid-March to mid-May are intermonsoon seasons, with less rainfall. The climate is hot and humid for much of the year, but is cooler in the highlands. The ancient period about 2,600 years ago, migrants from northern India, the ancestors of today's Sinhalese people, arrived in Sri Lanka. The Sinhalese were among the earliest people outside northern India to adopt the Buddhist religion, which they did around 300 BCE. The Buddhist kingdoms of Sri Lanka were related by language and culture to the classic states of northern India, such as the Maurya, 324 to 187 BCE, and Gupta, c. 320 c.550 CE, empires, and were in contact with them through diplomacy and trade. The Sri Lankan Buddhist kingdoms flourished by building and controlling irrigation networks on the plains in the northern part of the island. One ancient capital, Anuradhapura, was home to some of the largest and most impressive Buddhist temples of southern Asia. Sri Lankan state, King Kasyapa, 473 to 491, made his capital at Sigiriya, a natural rock fortress rising a sheer 500 feet above the surrounding plain, on top of which the king built an elegant city of palaces and gardens. King Kaisapa and other Sri Lankan kings had to deal with occasional invasions from Tamil Nadu, in southern India, which increased in frequency and severity after around 600 CE. Sri Lanka struggled, not always successfully, to remain independent of the Great Chola Empire that dominated southern India from about 850 to 1279 CE. A Tamil kingdom was established on the Jaffa Peninsula, in the northern part of Sri Lanka, by the early 13th century. Meanwhile, the centre of Sinhalese royal power drifted steadily toward the southern and western parts of the island, and the separate Sinhalese kingdom of Kandy rose to power in the central hills. The division of Sri Lanka into a Tamil north and east, and a Sinhalese south, centre and west, is thus not a new phenomenon of the 20th century, but a situation that has existed for hundreds of years. Long-distance ocean trade in the Indian Ocean region has existed since ancient times. The Roman Empire imported luxury goods from Sri Lanka, including gemstones and cinnamon. Sri Lankan ships sailed as far west as Arabia and as far east as China. Arab and Persian merchants knew Sri Lanka as the island of Serendib, a word that gives us serendipity, meaning something which comes as a pleasant surprise. Treasure ships sent by the Emperor of Ming Dynasty China visited Sri Lanka during the 15th century. Sri Lanka began to feel the impact of Europe soon after Portuguese ships found their way to the Indian Ocean at the end of the 15th century. Because Sri Lanka was rich in goods that Europeans wanted, and also because it is a convenient place to stop on the way from Europe to Indonesia and China, Europeans competed to control the island and its trade. The Portuguese conquered Sri Lanka's coastal cities in the 16th century, but faced fierce competition from the Dutch for control of the island. By 1707, the Dutch had captured the last of the Portuguese forts along the coast and became the main European power in Sri Lanka, but they in turn lost out to the British in 1795–96. By 1818, the British had also defeated the independent inland kingdom of Kandy, and the whole island of Sri Lanka became part of the British Empire. Under British colonial rule, the economy of Sri Lanka was transformed to become a producer of agricultural products for foreign trade. Soon the economy was dominated by plantation crops such as coffee, tea, rubber, and coconuts. The British authorities also encouraged the migration of Tamil labourers from southern India to Sri Lanka to work on the plantations. Colonial rule created new elite groups, including plantation managers, intellectuals who took advantage of the opportunity to gain a Western-style education, and bureaucrats who worked for the colonial government. But ethnic problems continued to complicate Sri Lankan national life. All over South Asia, including today's countries of India, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, resistance to British rule grew rapidly after the end of World War I in 1919. In Sri Lanka, which was comparatively small, stable, and well governed under British rule, the country's first democratic election was held in 1931. A movement toward economic self-determination leading to full independence was spearheaded by Sri Lanka's greatest modern leader, Don Stephen Senanayake, 1884–1952. When Sri Lanka became independent on February 4, 1948, Senanayake became the country's first Prime Minister. He committed his government to the principles of a free, democratic, and multi-ethnic Sri Lanka. However, long-standing problems between the Sinhalese and Tamil communities made it difficult to create a truly multi-ethnic society. Many Sinhalese resented the Tamils as newcomers, who took jobs and political power away from them, although the ancestors of some Tamils had lived in Sri Lanka for centuries. Many Tamils feared that their rights would be ignored by the Sinhalese majority. Sri Lanka's path as a modern, independent nation has been marred by almost continual political violence. Governments have faced popular pressure from the Sinhalese majority not to make concessions to the Tamil minority. Tamils have agitated for more autonomy. An agreement in 1957 recognizing Tamil as a national language and calling for the creation of a semi-autonomous Tamil state in the northeast was never fully implemented. Since 1972, the armed uprising of the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, Tamil Tigers, has been met with government military force, leading to outright civil war. Hundreds of political leaders, including Prime Minister W.R.D. Bandaranaike in 1959 and President Ranasinghe Peremadasa in 1993, have been assassinated by extremists from both communities. Despite ceasefires, negotiations, and peacemaking efforts by India, Norway, and Thailand, by the early 21st century the civil war had been responsible for at least 60,000 deaths. Foreign investment in manufacturing and tourism has stagnated in part because of fears of violence, with negative effects on national economic growth. The culture of Sri Lanka has been influenced by many factors, but has managed to retain much of its ancient aspects. Mostly it has been influenced by its long history and its Buddhist heritage. The country has a rich artistic tradition, embracing the fine arts, including music, dance, and visual arts. The Sri Lankan lifestyle is reflected in the cuisine, festivals, and sports. South Indian influences are visible in many aspects. There is also some influences from colonization by the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the British. Sri Lankan culture is best known abroad for its cricket, food, holistic medicine, religious icons like the Buddhist flag, and cultural exports such as tea, cinnamon and gems. Sri Lankan culture is diverse, as it varies from region to region. Sri Lanka has had ties with Indian subcontinent from ancient times. Demographics: Sinhalese 74.8%, Sri Lankan Moors 9.23%, Indian Tamil 4.16%, Sri Lankan Tamil 11.21%, other 0.6%. Sri Lanka boasts of a documented history of over 2,000 years, with the first stone objects dating back to 500,000 BC, mainly due to ancient historic scriptures like Mahavansa. Several centuries of intermittent foreign influence has transformed Sri Lankan culture to the present outlook. Nevertheless, ancient traditions and festivals are celebrated by mostly conservative Sinhalese people of the island, together with other minorities that make up the Sri Lankan identity. The architecture of Sri Lanka displays a rich variety of architectural forms and styles. Buddhism had a significant influence on Sri Lankan architecture, since it was introduced to the island in 3rd century BCE. However, techniques and styles developed in Europe and Asia have also played a major role in the architecture of Sri Lanka. Many forms of Sri Lankan arts and crafts take inspiration from the island's long and lasting Buddhist culture, which in turn has absorbed and adopted countless regional and local traditions. In most instances, Sri Lankan art originates from religious beliefs and are represented in many forms such as painting, sculpture, and architecture. One of the most notable aspects of Sri Lankan art are caves and temple paintings, such as the frescoes found at Sigiriya, and religious paintings found in temples in Dambulla and Temple of the Tooth Relic in Kandy. Other popular forms of art have been influenced by both natives, as well as outside settlers. For example, traditional wooden handicrafts and clay pottery are found around the hill country, while Portuguese-inspired lacework and Indonesian-inspired batik have become notable. It has many different and beautiful drawings. People in Sri Lanka love the performing arts. The main style of performance is Bollywood. The two single biggest influences on Sri Lankan music are from Buddhism and Portuguese colonizers. Buddhism arrived in Sri Lanka after the Buddha's visit in 300 BC, while the Portuguese arrived in the 15th century, bringing with them cantiga ballads, the ukulele, and guitars, along with African slaves, who further diversified the musical roots of the island. These slaves were called Kafranya, and their dance music was called Baila. Traditional Sri Lankan music includes the hypnotic Kanjin drums. Drumming was, and is very much a part and parcel of music in both Buddhist and Hindu temples in Sri Lanka. Most western parts of Sri Lanka follow Western dancing and music. The cuisine of Sri Lanka draws influence from that of India, especially from Kerala, as well as colonists and foreign traders. Rice, which is usually consumed daily, can be found at any special occasion, while spicy curries are favorite dishes for lunch and dinner. A very popular alcoholic drink is toddy or arak, both made from palm tree sap. Rice and curry refers to a range of Sri Lankan dishes. Sri Lankans also eat hoppers, appa, appam, which can be found anywhere in Sri Lanka. Much of Sri Lanka's cuisine consists of boiled or steamed rice served with spicy curry. Another well-known rice dish is kiribath, meaning milk rice. Curries in Sri Lanka are not just limited to meat or fish-based dishes. There are also vegetable and even fruit curries. A typical Sri Lankan meal consists of a main curry, fish, chicken, or mutton, as well as several other curries made with vegetable and lentils. Side dishes include pickles, chutneys, and sambals, which can sometimes be fiery hot. The most famous of these is the coconut sambal, made of scraped coconut mixed with chili peppers, dried Maldivian fish, and lime juice. This is ground to a paste and eaten with rice, as it gives zest to the meal and is believed to increase appetite. In addition to sambals, Sri Lankans eat molan, chopped leaves mixed with grated coconut and red onions. Coconut milk is found in most Sri Lankan dishes to give the cuisine its unique flavor. As noted above, many of Sri Lanka's urban areas are host to American fast food corporations, and many of the younger generation have started to take a liking to this new style of cuisine, although it is rejected by many, particularly the more traditional elder members of the community. Sri Lanka has long been renowned for its spices. The best known is cinnamon, which is native to Sri Lanka. In the 15th and 16th centuries, spice and ivory traders from all over the world who came to Sri Lanka brought their native cuisines to the island, resulting in a rich diversity of cooking styles and techniques. Lamprey rice boiled in stock with a special curry, accompanied by frikadelles, meatballs, all of which is then wrapped in a banana leaf and baked as a Dutch-influenced Sri Lankan dish. Dutch and Portuguese sweets also continue to be popular. British influences include roast beef and roast chicken. Also, the influence of the Indian cooking methods and food have played a major role in what Sri Lankans eat. Sri Lankans use spices liberally in their dishes and typically do not follow an exact recipe. Thus, every cook's curry will taste slightly different. Furthermore, people from different regions of the island, for instance, hill country dwellers versus coastal dwellers, traditionally cook in different ways. Sri Lankan cuisine is known to be among the world's spiciest, due to the high use of different varieties of chili peppers referred to as amu miris, chili pepper, kokai miris, and malu miris, banana pepper, capsicum, and in Tamil Malakai, among others. It is generally accepted for tourists to request that the food is cooked with a lower chili content to cater for the more sensitive Western palate. Food cooked for public occasions typically uses less chili than food cooked in the home, the latter where the food is cooked with the chili content preferable to the occupants. Being one of the largest producers of tea in the world, Sri Lankans drink a lot of tea. There are many tea factories around mountainous areas. Many Sri Lankans drink at least 3 cups a day. Sri Lanka is also one of the best tea-producing countries in the world, and the royal family of the United Kingdom has been known to drink Ceylon tea. Tea is served whenever a guest comes to a house. It is served at festivals and gatherings, or just for breakfast. The Sinhala and Tamil New Year, Aluth Avarudu in Sinhala, Puthiyathandu in Tamil, is a very large cultural event on the island. The festival falls in April, also known as the month of Bak, when the sun moves from the Meena Rashia, house of Pisces, to the Mesha Rashia, house of Aries. Unusually, both the end of one year and the beginning of the next occur not at midnight, but at separate times determined by astrologers, with a period of some hours between, the Nona Gath, or neutral period, being a time where one is expected to refrain from all types of work and instead engage solely in relaxing religious activities and traditional games. During the new year, festivities, both children and adults will often don traditional outfits. But the clothes must be washed and very clean, because it should be Southam, pure. Sri Lanka's culture also revolves around religion. The Buddhist community of Sri Lanka observe Poya days, once per month according to the lunar calendar. The Hindus and Muslims also observe their own holidays. Sri Lankans are very religious because the history of the island has been involved with religion numerous times. There are many Buddhist temples in Sri Lanka associated with ancient times. The religious preference of an area could be determined by the number of religious institutions in the area. The north and the east of the island has several notable Hindu temples, due to majority Tamil population reside in those areas, and ethnic conflict has severely affected other communities living on these areas during the times of LTT strife. Many churches could be found along the southern coastline because of former Roman Catholic or Protestant colonial heritage. Buddhists reside in all parts of the island, especially down south and in upcountry and western seaboard. They are the largest religious group in Sri Lanka. Languages of Sri Lanka. While the Sinhalese people speak Sinhala as their mother tongue, the Tamil people speak Tamil. English is also widely spoken. Sinhala is spoken by about 16 million people in Sri Lanka, about 13 million of whom are native speakers. It is one of the constitutionally recognized official languages of Sri Lanka, along with Tamil, which originates from South India. Sports plays a very big part in Sri Lankan culture, because the society was quite rich in educated people, therefore the people had found playing a sport is an important thing in life. Sri Lanka's main sport is cricket. But after the age of Englishman's cricket, being the most popular sport event in Sri Lanka, every child in Sri Lanka knows how to play cricket, and there are many cricket fields scattered across the island for children and adults to play the sport. The biggest pastime of the Sri Lankan population, after cricket, is watching the Sri Lankan national team play cricket. It is common for businesses to shut down when very big matches are televised. This was the case in 1996, when the Sri Lankan team beat Australia in the finals to win the Cricket World Cup. The whole country was shut down, although there was a curfew imposed upon the whole island. Cricket is the most popular sport in Sri Lanka. After the 1996 Cricket World Cup triumph of the Sri Lanka national cricket team, the sport became the most watched event in the country. But in recent years, the politicians and the businessmen getting into the sport has raised many concerns. With over 1,600 scuba diving at shipwrecks and coral reefs, and whale watching. Other major tourist attractions include ancient heritage